on a summer. Hey, everybody. How are you doing? It is Monday. Thanks, all you groovy, far out people. So good to see you. Hope you had a great weekend. I had a little, man, came down with it Friday and a sore throat and headache. And anyway, you know, back on the mend. So how is everybody? Hello, all the moderators. How are you doing? Thank you for everything. And thank all the rest of you. I mean, y'all are just far out people. That's all I got to say. Glad I grew up when I did. Seriously, it was, I don't know. I guess every time had their time, but that was a good time. I will put in my eternal journal, the 70s were a blast. They sucked in a lot of ways, but hey, it's amazing how we can see the filter. So favor to all of you folks, just speaking favor over all of us. We really need a lot more of it. And I believe that we're more favored than what we may realize. Yeah. But we're going to see. Let's see tomorrow, Miss Trina. Second look. Looking forward to that. We covered a lot of information. Overwhelming amount of emails on Friday's show. Yeah, there was a lot of suggestions that said, could you maybe... Yeah, Truth Seeker, it was interesting. It was a great time. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And about that way, too. The music was choice. I mean, I contend, ladies and gentlemen, that our species will never see another time, at least not this cycle, where rock and roll dominated cultures. Rock and roll. I mean, we read about the Sumerians and we read about their traditions and how they basically were the plug and play society. And then we've read about the ancient people that we absolutely have nothing in common with. I remember I was a Christian, I was always reading the Old Testament and I'm going, and I said this one time in a church meeting. I said, you know what? I said, those people had to stink back then. I mean, and tooth decay, I don't know what they did for bathing. And have you ever thought about this? Where did they go and take a crap at? What do you carry a shovel with you and you go out there and, left hand will travel? I mean, you think about a lot of these things. I remember someone said, oh, you can't be thinking like that. I said, why? I mean, they were nomadic. I mean, tell me about these things. Anyway, maybe I'm just too practical. Yes, Big Al, I am. Voice is still, throat's recovering. Got my tea, so I'm doing good there. But thank you for asking. Thank you very much. But these are the things that they don't teach in school. They don't teach you in the theology. I know they did in the Roman days. They had public crappers. And everyone, had a sponge because there was water running through the whole facilities, the restroom, shall we say. But anyway, well, thank you, Rance. Good to hear that. Hey, Nina the Mystic, how you doing, my dear? Robert V, good to see you. Hello, Lois, how are you doing? So, hey, Susie Q. So, yeah, anyway. Yeah, I mean, come on, think about that. No one talks about those kind of things, Every holy man had to defecate. I guess that's where that expression where you think your shit doesn't stink. I don't know. What can I say? It's Monday and we're going to have fun. You got to have a smile on your face, smile in your heart. And I'm going to tell you what, you're going to keep looking younger. you're going to continue to have this renewed vitality, this energy. It's what comes with laughter. Laughter, and as we get into this year, is if you think your life is cursed, if you think that there's dark entities that are trying to negatively influence you, do you know laughter breaks all curses? It does. Like that in an instant. It will chase a spirit away faster than anything else. Laughter. Think about it. It is empowering, folks. So if you're looking to be empowered, then start laughing. And then the next thing you're going to know, you're going to start dancing. And then when you start dancing, you're going to start grooving to the music. And then, you let the mind go and the body will follow. What can I say? Thank you, Joe versus the volcano. If you've never seen the movie, go watch it. That's true, Susan. Absolutely. I've known people, and there have been many documented stories of this, of laughing themselves back to health. They had a death sentence. And the truth is, people don't laugh enough in the right way. There's a right way to laugh, is to be joyful. Anyway, excuse the voice. It's just how it is, folks. So I have a really deep, give me a second here. I want to close this thing out. All right, there we go. I'm back. Back, baby. So while I was feeling and fighting, telling my body, say, listen, and that's what I told my body. I said, listen, we're in a covenant relationship, you and I. We're intimately involved with one another. And well, thank you. Yeah, I know he can do the job, but can he do the job? I know he can get the job, but can he do the? Yeah. Who was it? Mr. Watusi? I think that's what his name was. Yeah. But anyway, that's what I told my body. I said, so, hey, listen, let's focus in on what you've got to have. And, everyone, absolutely, Jules, you're right. A good belly laugh. So anyway, I've been reading. And I am a person, I approach this subject with great skepticism. Quite frankly, I thought it was just nothing more than fiction, unicorns, the whole bit. I had been introduced to the whole concept back in the 80s. And of course, any of you that followed SG-1, Stargate, I was a big fan of the series. Those writers were incredible. They were breaking things and tying things together that I swear they had to have a wizard on staff that was writing that. They were channeling somewhere, but nevertheless, that's the first time I saw the concept of a ZPE, and they called it in the series was a ZPN. And the fact that power, energy, is everywhere. In fact, we're going to find in this series, and it's long, folks, I really spent some time on this, and I think you're going to find it somewhat disturbing. You're going to also find it also very educational. I want to say right up front, don't get afraid of the math. There's going to be a lot of math, but hey, we all love numbers. All right. I like playing roulette, so there are certain numbers that I like particularly, and they've always paid off anyway. But this will probably go over a number of days. It's deep, and get ready, folks, because this whole subject of 0 point energy is amazing. And from a skeptic's point of view, and you start delving into this thing, and I mean, I passed Wonderland a long time ago. That freaking rabbit, he just waved at me, said, enjoy the trip. And yeah, what a trip. And it's still happening. So let's get into it so you can enjoy the trip as well. This is going to be a good one, folks. This will be one that'll go in as the top 5. And that's a pretty high mark. This is about 0 point energy. And we're going to get into the science of this. We're going to get into the conspiracy, the different theories. And yeah, you're going to find this with quite a cast of characters. This is my writing here. So just let's get into this. Our world is a living hell. We are told and taught that this is just the way it is on planet Earth. You have the haves and you have the have-nots. We are told there is not enough food, not enough housing, or resources for everyone to be equal and to live in equality and to have access. Access. Yes, that's why the rich are the way they are, the powerful. They have access. We are taught you must pay for energy, for food, medicine, and education. And if you cannot pay, then you suffer. This way of life is all a forced reality and does not need to be so. Mankind has the technology and has had it for nearly 70 years that can eliminate all hunger, the need to use or process fossil fuel or oil. We don't need to be on oil, folks. We don't need to be on electricity, at least not the ones that they're doing that generates pollution. It's lousy. It kills people. We can be completely free of all fossil fuels, of all the different processes and the synthesizing. The plastics would disappear. Don't need them. We can completely clean the earth and eliminate pollutions of all kinds. Provide free green energy. This is so green. Green has to come and borrow the tent from it. This is truly the utopia. Free energy to every person on earth. Literally provide spacious living for every human being. Have pollution-free and complete safety of transportation, travel to every planet in the solar system, begin to mine and harvest natural minerals, metals from space, to eliminate diseases linked to poverty, to eliminate crime, bring in a new era of physics, and revolutionize science, bringing longevity of life for humans to be in the thousands of years in a lifetime, and live in a paradise that all mankind has longed and sought for. All this is possible by 0 point energy, or simply ZPE. Every statement I made here is backed up with facts. What we're living in right now, this whole construct, the whole financial system, the whole system is how we are born into, is a contrived system, purposely put into place. People have died saying the same thing I have just said. 0 point energy, the end of all poverty for mankind. It was stolen flat out illegally stolen. They're criminals. So how much do you know about 0 point energy? I will tell you this, by the time we get finished with this series, you will be able to converse with the most informed on the subject. In fact, you probably will become an SME. That's a subject matter expert. You see, folks, Earth should already be free of poverty, homelessness, hunger, disease, pollution, war of any kind. All of this is self-contrived, self-inflicted upon us. It's nuts. It's part of the problem that the Council of Planets, systems, however you want to title it, they do exist. That's their problem with the way it's set up. It's unbalanced. Quite frankly, folks, they, meaning the off-worlders, they've had enough. There are changes coming. This illegal cabal that has been set up for decades, they're criminals. And now they are galactic criminals, not just by man standards, but now from the off-worlders as well. Our world is in the condition it is because of a very few assholes. These so-called people are criminals and should be arrested, stripped of all wealth, all assets seized, and thrown into the darkest hole and left to rot as they have done to all of humanity. And I think that there is an actual plan that is unfolding that's going to do exactly this. It's all indications something is up, folks. Something is seriously up. You see, doing through the Freedom of Information Act, we've been able to get a hold of what were once considered cosmic top secret. That's 38 levels above top secret. And the conclusion is, folks, they're real. They're here. And this is reality. Yeah. Never saw this picture, have you? It's an interesting one. This is, as you can see, released from the CIA. And listen, if you ever want to go on a trip to Wonderland, go over to the CIA.gov and go into their archives. Now, of course, they're going to know who you are and they'll have you what have you. But hey, I don't give a crap. I think much of this should have been. In fact, these organizations, such as these we're going to talk about. So what this is about alien technology that has been stolen, that has been pilfered, that has been illegally hoarded. This is about the enslavement of the human races. They have purposely enslaved us because that's all it is. This is about freedom, our freedom, the freedom of our species to change the destiny before it does become too late or before there's an interdiction. This is about greed of a very few who have become sick. This is about us, you and I. The last is, this is about the off-worlders, and they're pissed off. Yeah, we're going to learn a little bit more about that as well. So who are the bad guys in this whole scenario? Came across an interesting document. First of all, we're really talking about Murder Incorporated here. By some sources, they say that there have been over 10,000 murders conducted by organizations such as the CIA, the NSA, and we're going to get into a whole list of others. These shadow organizations, these quasi government black ops. Yeah. So in ufology, there is at one time a list. Now, as you can see, this goes back to 1997. Folks, this is the pre-internet days. I mean, this was the days of AOL, Netscape, where we did dial-up. But there was an interesting list when I saw these names, and I wanted to share it with you. So you can see the key to the categories. You have bad, which equates to harming the truth about UFOs. You have the ugly. These are basically unreliable agents of disinformation, misinformation. Yeah. And then you have good, which is equated to helps UFO truth emerge. Well, all right. So the bad guys, here's just the partial list. Colonel John Alexander, USA, DIA, INSCOM, retired, PhD, Bigelow's, we're going to, NIDs, Avery, suspected as a leader in the UFO cover-up cabal, Walter Andrus, U.S. Navy, retired director of MUFON, sophisticated disinformation ops. Robert Baker, PhD, psychologist debunker. Bob Bigelow, Bigelow Industries, Las Vegas, New Mexico, casinos, billionaire, suspected of intelligence money laundering. And by the way, when you make a call of reporting an UFO, it goes to Bigelow's Industries. He's into his own private space program. He is the one who owns the Skinwalker's Ranch. All right, Peter Brooksmith, writer, UFO debunker. Jerome Clark, editor, IUFO, super sophisticated disinformator, agitator. Major Ed Dames, again, of the same military Department of, Intelligence. Head of Psych Tech, the PsyTech, the remote viewing disinformer. Sergeant Richard Doughty, United States Air Force, OSI, retired, UFO secrets, informant, disinformer. Stanton Freeman, I thought that name was real interesting. You see Stanton Freeman and all the ancient alien things, and here he is on this list. Nuclear engineer, super sophisticated disinformer, agitator. Christopher Kit King, medical doctor, PhD, General Motors officer, former top UFO official at the CIA, head of Bigelow's NIDs, Institute Scientific Advisory Board. Richard Hall, intelligence mole within the Fund for UFO Research. You see, apparently you got the bad guys in with the good guys, that where the money is coming from to support the research, the funding, and all this. Yeah, it's Dr. James Harder, abductions investigators. He's an intelligence mole. Bud Hopkins, artist, abductions investigator, disinformer. Admiral Bobby Ray Inman. This was one I thought was another. Retired U.S. Navy, ex-NASA official, NSA official, head of Scientific Applications International Corporation. And by the way, this SIAC, wow, that's all I got to say. Do some research into these. Whoa. And UF Black Ops twin, Decision Science Applications Incorporated. Dr. David Jacobs, historian, abductions investigator, disinformer. Philip Klass, aerospace writer, UFO debunker. Carl Croft, USO debunker. John Lear, former CI operative, disinformator. Ted Oppolant, UFO investigator, Intel mole, information vacuumer. Isn't that interesting? How would you like to be called a vacuumer? Yeah, what does David do? He's the vacuumer. Okay. Dr. Richard Sauter, underground basis investigator, sophisticated disinformer. Daryl Sims, ex-CI operative, abductions investigators, disinformation propagandist. Dennis Stacy, ex-editor of MUFON, Journal of Disinformation Debunker. General Al Bart Subline, United States DIA INSCOM, remote viewing. That's what he came from. Intel mole. Valorant. Krypton of John Grace, Air Force intelligence operative disinformator. Jacques Val, doctor, scientist, UFO spokesman, super sophisticated disinformer. So to be a disinformer, you have different levels. I mean, you can become a super sophisticated disinformer. George Wackott, head of security organization for Area 51 and S4. I've done a whole thing on S4. That's where the real action's at. Area 51's got too much attention. You got Dugway, you got S4, where the real actions. Now, here are the uglies, the unreliables, the partial list. Art Bell, they considered him a mole information vacuumer. Well, you think about it, he would have had access to information that the dark agencies would never have access to. Super sophisticated disinformer. Well, I guess maybe his handlers turned on him. I don't know. Graham Birdsall, editor of UK magazine UFO, sophisticated disinformation and asset. Professor Courtney Brown, mistrained by Major Ed Danes to remote view UFOs and ETs. Glenn Campbell, not the singer, Area 51 investigator, super sophisticated disinformer. Martin Cannon, mind control investigator, disinformer. Peter Davenport, ex-National Security Agency, NSA, operative, head of the National UFO Reporting Center. Michael Hessman, UFO investigator and former vacuumer for Prince Hans Adam of Liechtenstein. Linda M. Howe. How about this? You know, today she's the one who speaks at all the conferences and gets all the really juicy inside intel. They classify her as a useful fool for super sophisticated intel information vacuuming propaganda. Folks, you got to look at everything equally. Commander Scott Jones, United States Navy retired PhD, ex-intelligence officer, paranormal investigator. By the way, the Navy is all up into that paranormal stuff. Holy crap. I mean, you know, they control so much of the UFO technology. Anyway. Roger Lear, DPM, implant investigator, extractor. Useful fool for partner Daryl Sims of the CIA. Bob Oskler, UFO informer, useful fool for speaking sophisticated UFO disinformation. Kevin Randall, UFO investigator, agitprops ops. So I'm gathering that's agitated operations, you know, obviously to, I guess, stir things up. Trolls, what we would call them today. Yvonne Smith, abductions investigator, in the past spread sophisticated UFO disinformation. Well, all right. So here's what we have to understand. This technology has been around for literally 100 years, and more recently by reversed engineered from captured crashed UFOs. And I'll give you a little bit of the backstory here. We developed, the United States, in 1947, a advanced radar system. It was installed in the Four Corners area of the United States. That's Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Colorado. And when they turned this radar on, unbeknownst to the military, it would literally shut down the navigation systems of these crafts. Roswell was just one of 3 crafts, and it wasn't even actually in Roswell. The big site was in Corona, New Mexico. Now, the thing that they found, there were living, there was initially 3, 2 died on the crash scene. That was in Corona, New Mexico. The one alien did live and lived for about 3.5+ years. When they boarded the craft, each craft had a cube. It was almost like plexiglass. That's when we found out how their crafts were powered. They were 0-point energy devices. Now, this technology, as I've said before, will eliminate all pollution, stop all need and use of fossil fuels, all byproducts of petroleum, eliminate any human from being cold or hot ever again. It will end all hunger, all housing shortages, almost all sicknesses and disease, because remember, most sickness and disease comes from poverty, folks. Homelessness. Not enough food. Good food. It will propel the standard of living to be equal. That's one of the reasons why they don't want this. Advanced propulsion systems to revolutionize all transportation here on Earth. Bring a new age of commerce and prosperity not known to mankind. Folks, the ZPE will, or already has, taken mankind to the stars. New explorations, new worlds for mankind to settle, bring new resources to Earth, and usher in an age of unlimited prosperity and longevity to all humans, not just a select few. The sad truth is, all of humanity could have already achieved all of this. All of these things could have been done decades ago. We could literally be in the Jetson era right now. It's the crime that they have inflicted upon us. Yeah. But instead, this technology was stolen illegally by a few sick, sadistic, soulless, walking meat suits who have no soul or compassion for any other human being. They are criminals and believe they are above any law or jurisdiction. They have ordered the death of millions of innocent children, women, and men without even a second thought. They have no soul and hate all mankind and only see their own betterment, no one else's, not even God, for they see themselves as God. They've stolen this, folks. And the technology that we have today, it is they that have parceled this out. Yeah, want to talk a little bit about inbreeding? No human being has this right. And this was because the United States allowed this. These secret operations that control this technology, that have these top secret clearances that go to level 38, that are in private corporations that you can't even find, but yet, trillions of dollars, tax dollars have been stolen from the American citizens. This is a robbery. This is a heist. Yeah. They only see us as slaves, folks. Now, who are the good guys? Well, here's a partial list of who this particular document said was the good guys. David Adar, former contract scientific consultant to NASA on UFO propulsion technology. Colin Andrews, crop circles investigator. Richard Boland, Dr. Richard Boland, psychologist, ET encounters researcher. John Carpenter, LCSW, ET encounters researcher and therapist. Sean Castile, UFO investigative journalist. Scott Katmus, UFO investigator, journalist, TV producer. Major Gordon Cooper, United States Air Force retired, Apollo astronaut, UFO reality publicist. Lieutenant Colonel Philip Corso, United States Air Force retired, custodian of Roswell UFO and UFO reality publicist. Mark Davenport, UFO investigative and generalist. Command Sergeant Major Robert Dean, USA NATO retired, UFO reality publicist. Jose Escamilla, UFO photographer. Timothy Good, top UFO investigator. Dr. Stephen Greer, director, Committee of the Study of Intelligence, Extraterrestrial Intelligence, CSETI. William Hamilton, UFO investigator, journalist. Noria Hayaka, UFO investigator, but has accepted disinformation about ET motives. Richard Holgood, scientist, investigator of ET artifacts. Jack Casher, Dr. Casher, professor, UFO investigator. Captain Guy Kirkwood, United States Air Force, Special Projects, a.k.a. Mel Noel, UFO investigator. Robert Lazier, former physicist at Los Alamos and Area 51S4 UFO reality publicist. Tom Lohman, UFO investigator, journalist, TV producer. Dr. Jack Mack, Harvard psychiatry professor, ET encounters researcher and therapist. Jess Marcel Jr., doctor, son of intelligence officer of Roswell Saucer UFO reality publicist. Jesse Marcel, that's who his father was. Jim Mars, investigative journalist, UFO reality publicist. Jamie Muson, investigative TV journalist, producer, UFO reality publicist. Edgar Mitchell, PhD, Apollo astronaut, UFO reality publicist. Brian O'Leary, doctor, Mars mission astronaut, UFO reality publicist. Tech Sergeant Dan Sherman, United States Air Force, NSA, ET communications expert, UFO reality publicist. Leo Sprinkle, doctor, psychologist, ET encounters researcher. Colonel Wendell Stevens, United States Air Force, retired UFO investigator. Whitley Stryber, ET encounters investigator. Colonel Donald Ware, United States Air Force, U.S. investigator. And Michael Wolf, Dr. Michael Wolf, double PhD, repentant member of MJ-12 Special Studies Group, UFO reality. Now, I went through that whole list for a purpose, because this whole subject is been purposely put out. I want to say thanks to Dr. Vallone for what can only be one of the best information pieces that I have been able to find. He is with the Integrity Research Institute. These are well over a decade plus old. So it kind of tells you where we are in time frames. So the first thing that we have to address here is let's talk about oil. All right. Oil is everything. So who profits? Who controls? That's where you begin to connect the dots. All these corporations are owned by somebody, shareholders, but there are particular, what you would call the founders, whatever you want to say. but they control. There's been rumors of, certain families that control everything. They finance all the wars. They win no matter what. And this is what we deal with day in and day out. They write history. They make the history. And it's always who. You see, what we're talking about is free energy for all. It's just that simple. But no, you can't make a buck off it. And that's the problem. You see, this is the sickness with human beings. We've got this sickness that we think everything is built on commerce. We will never advance to the point of being an intellectually accepted species amongst the other species until we get rid of this archaic way of life, of commerce. But the reason why it's not, we have to talk about, instead of greed, it should be energy for all. Yeah, that's not going to happen, is it? We've seen the movie. We know the script. Einstein said this: the world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything. Yeah. Think about that, folks. Now, Tesla, he showed us. Tesla showed us that there was energy everywhere, that you didn't need lines. J.P. Morgan, the selfish son of a bitch that he is and was, wherever he is at, one of the top criminals, his family that has profited off this. You see, he had just invested in copper manufacturing. Why? Well, because he was also the one who happened to get Westinghouse. Yeah, he's realized what was going on. But Tesla showed us that the Earth's magnetic flux can be strummed or resonatedly vibrated, and that the air offers a conductive path. You don't need all this. You don't need all this infrastructure. It's unnecessary. And you're now beginning to see it slowly enter into the market. Apple has announced that they're going to send up their own satellites. Screw all these other telecoms. There are phones, and we're going to beam directly to them. We don't need you anymore. That telecom industry, if you ever pay a phone bill, your mobile bill, look at what you do. You're inheriting these blank taxes that go nowhere. It's a slush fund for all the telcos and the government. Tesla showed us that there is an electrostatic induction that takes place naturally in the Earth. The Earth is a giant capacitor. Again, folks, you don't need nuclear power plants. You don't need coal-fired plants. You don't need natural gas. You don't need any of that. You really just, what you need are basically nodes. That's all. Here's a quote from Nikola Tesla. Throughout space, there is energy. Is this energy static or kinetic? If static, our hopes are in vain. If kinetic, and we know it is for certain, then it is a mere question of time when men will succeed in attaching their machinery to the very will work of nature. Many generations may come to pass, but in time, our machinery will be driven by a power obtainable at any point in the universe. We never had to send rockets up with these solid rocket propellants. It was all a show. But they had to do it to keep the mirage. Otherwise, you're not going to buy it. You see, we never went to the moon. We did spend trillions of dollars. There is a holographic image. I mean, we can go on and on and on. And by the time it gets here, no one knows, unless you were alive and witness it, what really did happen. But this is where we are at. We knew this. That's why they murdered Tesla. He knew it. He was going to take this knowledge to an overseas, he thought investor, some say it was another country. And our government killed him. So it's about oil. The United States is now the leading exporter of oil. Bet you didn't know that. So why are we all wrapped around the axle about Mideast oil? They're nothing. They're has-beens. We got more oil. We could, if this was a poker game, our chips go feet high. Theirs are only inches. Why? We sucked it all out of them. And this is verifiable. You see, this is a complex matrix. You can't simply pull out one piece. You have to be able to pull multiple pieces from multiple different areas. And this is why the holders of this technology have been able to do what they've been able to do. Because this is where the world has been focused in on. Every time you fill up your car, that car doesn't need to have a combustion engine. The very first cars were electric cars. And now Tesla showed them, Ford, that, hey, you don't need any of that. These cars could run on unlimited energy. Well, that ain't no good. Can't make a buck on that. We've known for nearly 25 years in the press, much longer than that, going back to Tesla, the physicists can confirm that power of nothing, measuring the force of quantum in a foam. And this is what they found out. We're going to learn what a ZPE is. So don't be afraid of the math. I know it can look intimidating, and don't worry about it. At least you can say that, well, there is a mathematical formula. Listen, the hypothesis that comes out of so many universities is all, how should we say, Peter Pan. The physicist will hate me for saying that one. So what we're talking about here is basically creating a quantum vacuum. So 0-point energy is not conserved. When you bring down the temperature to absolute zero Kelvin, it was thought that nothing can exist or move of heat in that environment. What they found was just the opposite. In fact, it's so hot, it can all get hotter than the surface of the sun. And what they found is that there was quantum fluctuations in the vacuum that was created. And this created virtual particles that would literally come in and then come out, that produce shielding in a mechanical force, propulsion. So you have the colloidal experiments, which has the Casimir force that pushes, and we're going to get more into that. And then you get this electron-positron production. This gentleman was the one who probably was able to break the Rosetta Stone. And as you can see here, the different contributions making to 0-point energy. And you can see the different scientists, the different countries who was breaking new realms in science. So the feasibility of extracting 0-point energy. Can it be done? Now, these people weren't getting the benefit of the government, these secret ops. They were scientists that were beginning to see leaking that was coming out. They were being fed selective information. They just so happened began to pursue it. So as an emerging science, folks, from 1948, this is a game changer. It's something that you should get to know. The more of us who get to know about this, the more they're going to have a problem keeping it from the masses. Now, this is a long list. You can see Mr. Tesla. There's Professor Planck. We're going to be studying about Planck's principle, laws of radiation. There's Mr. Einstein. He actually used the term ZPE. There's Hansberg. You can go right on down the line. There's Lamb. There is Casimir. There is Feynman. There's Mead. And then we have the latest, Pinto, and he actually has invented, back in 1999, a ZPE engine. I told you we were going to talk about Planck's law. There had to be new physics applied to this. This is why it has been so difficult. You have to understand when you're thinking in terms of combustion, if you're thinking in terms of, splitting atoms and dealing with the nastiness of this is completely on the other side of the court. And when they began to find out that this 0-point radiation, this is very important. It was Planck's law of radiation. So I went out and just to show you what Planck's law was, it's basically a mathematical relationship that formulates a point of stability. It helps explain the spectral energy distribution of radiation emitted by a black body, a hypothetical body that completely absorbs all radiant energy falling upon it. This reaches some equilibrium in temperature and then re-emits that energy as quickly as it is absorbed. Planck assumed that the sources of radiation are atoms in a state of oscillation and that the vibrational energy of each oscillator may have any of a series of discrete values, but never any value between Planck's equation. Planck further assumed that when the oscillator changes from a state of energy, E, to a state of low energy, E, as you can see to the second degradation, the discrete amount of energy, E1 minus E2, or the quantum radiation. I know you're going like, well, what the hell does that mean? It just means that we discovered something, this quantum vacuum. You see, it's virtual photons that carry the momentum. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about the ability to make a device small. Doesn't have to be a huge engine. It's very small. Now, that's the energy source, the propulsion and all the other things. But the fact is, your ship can go whoop, whoop, whoop. Why? As I showed you last week, it creates a vacuum. Now, imagine you've worked the math out. Look at here. This is how the discovery was made. This is Dr. Franklin Mead. There's his patent. Yeah. And, I've tried to tell you this before, but there is a process in patents. You can be awarded a patent, but when you go to enforce your patent, you have to do what they call perfect the patent. In other words, you have to have an actual working product for that patent. And software can be patented as well, I know. Yeah. Anyway, so when I'm reading the patents and I'm looking at the prior artwork, it's quite interesting. And by the way, this is the United States Air Force Research Laboratory, Propulsion Directorate. So you're telling me that when he got this patent, that what? He just sat on it? He signed the rights over to the United States Air Force, but it is a propulsion system. And now, companies like SpaceX and Blue Orion, they're looking at new propulsion systems that you don't have to have this. So now we know that with these systems, you can generate anti-gravity. Now, the thing about magnetism is through the whole universe. You have a vehicle that is using in a known space an energy source that never ends. Yeah. Here is the electrokinetic equation, causality of the electromagnetic induction and gravitation system. Do I understand this math? Don't need to. I mean, you can get through the idea of what they're talking about here, but it's the practical application for me that someone has taken the time to do the math. So we have motion from the 0-point energy vacuum, and this is the fluctuation. So if you've seen those pictures with the UFOs, that when they're wobbling, this is why they're wobbling. It's the fluctuations within the vacuum. And then all of a sudden you see them go, woof! It's because they've put into the system in their coordinates, X, Y, Z. And they're talking propulsion systems that on Earth, you would see these ships going as slow as 1,000 miles an hour to as fast as 30,000 miles or more an hour until they get outside the atmosphere, and then they can actually reach sub-sea. We're going to break off here, but this is, again, I know it sounds deep, but folks, there's a purpose for this. And later on, we're going to see how this was brought out into the public at one of the most tumultuous times in the 2000s. And I bet you completely forgot about it. So we're going to pick up here. I hope you're enjoying this. Just let me know. Let me get out. There we go. And oh yeah, we got, uh, folks, it's here. And the more of us that get here, I'm writing emails to my congressman, to the 2 senators here in Colorado. I want to know why it is that we, the American taxpayer, has paid for this technology, but yet we're not benefiting from it. Why am I making a payment every month to the utility company? Why am I paying for electricity that should not have been paid for at all? Folks, it's nuts. You could be anywhere on the planet. You could be in Antarctica and live in an environment that would completely be immune to the elements. So, yeah. And like I said, I wait till there's over 175 slides I've made on this. We're just on 49. So kinds of tell you where we're going. But I can assure you this, we pick up on Wednesday. It gets, and you know how I do these, it builds up. And wait till we get to the crescendo. Yep. All right, folks. Thank you. The flux capacitor. That's what I kept on saying. Last car we bought, I said, I want a flux capacitor. I should be able to, I want I grew up with the Jetsons. I want the flying cars. And now I understand how you can have a flying car without the concern of ever running into another one. It's really interesting, the technology that once this is, folks, you would never have another car wreck. There never would be. Unless, I guess, something hit the planet. But anyway, thank you, Regina. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's I know it's deep, but folks, sometimes it falls right in line with everything else we're studying. I mean, I'd like to talk to the spirits about this. If I can't find an ET that will talk to me, maybe the spirits will talk. That's the type of conversation I'd like to have with a spirit. I want to talk to them about, why is it? Is 0 point energy over in the spirit realm? I mean, you're using energy. Is that what we are? Is this another term of what we call the divine spark? What if my body could absorb that in a manner that where I don't put all my energy in this body, but it has the ability to pull? I mean, come on, folks, think about this. This gets deep. And yeah, now we're all going to walk out in that soup that we call the atmosphere. All right. Thank you, folks, so much for tuning in. It has been an honor and a privilege. I appreciate it. Thank you all. And like I said, I have fun doing these presentations, and I came at it from a skeptic's point of view. So when I put this together, I was trying to find the most skeptical information I could. And you start finding out, and you're going, well, but wait a minute, and then you go to academia.edu and you put in there in the search engine for ZPE. Holy crap. It's like, wait a minute. You got universities that are deep into this stuff. All right. Well, thank you, Dream. What is it? Dream Source? Thank you. That's very kind of you. All right, folks. Peace to you. I've held you up long enough. Held you up. Freudian slip on that one, isn't it? I'll see you tomorrow with Miss Trina, and thank you so much. All right. Bye-bye.